Hi, everybody. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. This is Racquel Palmese with you again. Good to feel you out there. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Atika. Oh my God. Hi, Pasha. It's good to see you. And everybody that will come on with us today and everybody that will check in later. Welcome to the energy field. And in that, I'd also like to welcome you to what I've been calling the Great Awakening. And you know, things are shifting and changing in so many ways. We're all aware of that. But the actual thought, the actual knowingness that there is a really great, huge shift in consciousness happening right now. Hi, Danielle. Is kind of like passing by us a lot because we're so busy trying to align with all the new ways that we have to be right now. Not just because of COVID, but because we're feeling a shift. We're feeling shifts in the way we work, the way we teach our kids, the way we parent, the way we have relationships. It's all like everything is up for grabs right now, all the cards up in the air. And I just wanted to take a moment with you as we're dropping in together to ask you to come into the knowing and alignment that we here on planet Earth are in the midst of an awakening. We're not anywhere near there yet, but we're starting, and you can know this because you can feel the pulse of your own heart. You can feel the pulse of a voice calling you towards something. I think I'm supposed to do some art, or my God, I feel drawn to volunteering with children, or whatever it is that's making you feel kind of restless and unsettled is probably calling you into greater service. And what does that mean, greater service? What is all this awakening about? So here we go. Let's take a few breaths. Welcome everybody that's on here with me right now. Really take a few breaths and drop in with me. Start being in touch with the energy field that is being created. This container that we're all in right now, we might as well be sitting in the same room together. And that goes for you also if you tune in later. You're part of it. You are part of this dynamic, and you are also part of the greater dynamics that are going on the planet. All we're being asked right now is to feel into that. See what that feels like, to know that we're part of that. And the biggest part of our evolution is not necessarily coming through our physical bodies. Those are kind of staying the same, hopefully healthier as we become more conscious of what we put into them and how we use these bodies. Our minds are our minds. Our emotions, hopefully we are finding the tools and the ways to heal our emotional bodies, to be able to release and let go of that which is not serving us, old stories and stuff that collect in the emotional body. But what the real evolution is about right now has to do with the evolution of the heart. And there is a whole quadrant, say, of our hearts that is still sleeping. It hasn't awoken yet. It hasn't been ready. Because this quadrant of the heart has to do with something that is not only very natural to us, but has also been completely subverted through the history of our species. And it is actually ready to transform, is transforming. And what that quadrant of the heart has to do with is related to unconditional love. We don't really know what that means yet. We have an idea. We feel it with our children, certainly, especially watching them sleep. We will feel it in nature sometimes, the just unleashing of the heart, the opening, the feeling of freedom that we get when our hearts are just open and alive, not in judgment, not in fear, not kind of self-conscious, but just alive. But the real evolution that is trying to come in right now has to do with the generous heart, with the service, with being in service. And if you got my message today, my announcement for today's live, I spoke a little bit about that, about being in service as a natural way, especially for some of us. We have always known we were born to be in service. We love doing things for people. We love to fix things for people. We love to make things better. People call us givers sometimes. But really, what that's about is more about the reality of the human consciousness, the reality of the human being, is that we are naturally givers. We love to share. But right away, from the time we're children, that sharing becomes transactional. We say we shine for our parents and we expect to get something back. We expect that, oh, you're the greatest thing in the world. We expect to get a dollar for our tooth, or every time we do something good, we expect a reward for it. So our goodness, our generosity becomes transactional right from a very early age. And we don't even know that there's a problem with that. But there is. Because it makes us small. And it denies that part of our hearts, which when open, engage without judgment, that part of our hearts that meet the world with curiosity and love, instead of fear. And what happens if I do this thing? We become afraid. Because a lot of times what we get back doesn't feel so good. We'll do something and somebody will say, what are you doing that for? And we might become afraid. It's the transactional nature, the expectation that we do things to get something back, that has held us back for as long as we've been in existence, I think. We are not greedy by nature. We grow that way because we become self-protective in a lot of ways. And what if we got over that? What if spiritually, what we're being asked is to find that place in our heart and actually open it? And you may say, I'm a generous person. I'm generous to a fault. I think of everybody else before myself. It's a problem. But that's not exactly what we're talking about here. what we're talking about here is the actual unleashing of your heart, evolving that heart into something so big, so open, that it becomes an embrace rather than a challenge. And yes, it is possible to go through life like that. We don't really need all the protection we think we do, because when we are in a heart flow like this, when people have a bad reaction to us, if we need to speak truth to someone, if we need to tell someone, hey, your behavior is hurting me, with an open heart, we can express that in a very real way. And if they get defensive back to us, because we're in such an open-hearted place, their angst, their anger, their defensiveness doesn't bother us. We don't have to take it on. We recognize it as their stuff. And we can just keep loving them, and we can just say, look, I am only pointing this out to you because I love you. I care about you. And if they want to turn away and go in a whole other direction, so be it. But we are solidly awakening in a heart space that is at the same time creative, loving, straightforward. It can be really tough. It can be tough love. It can be holding people accountable. It can be all these things. If it's coming from that place in our own heart where the greater truth of our love exists, that emanation of the divine that we are is not soft and flouncy all the time. It is very grounded. It is the truth of the earth, the truth of this life, that it is created to challenge us. We come here to be challenged. And in that challenge, we come here to find a way to open, not close. Feel the parts of you that are closed. Feel the parts of you that are afraid to communicate your truth. Feel the parts of you that are in judgment of other people. Being in service in this life, without it having to be transactional. It doesn't mean that if you're a teacher, there's no exchange back to you of payment or something like that. But being in service is simply something we do because we're born for it. Because we are sharers by nature. We are. We are not, like I said, inherently greedy. We aren't. Or self-protective. But we have conditioned ourselves to become that way, to get as much as we can and hold it and build our little forts. And that, if you look around you, I look around me at the people I'm working with, that is changing now. The generous heart is emerging. It is. I can look all around me and see examples of that. Being in service, having a life of service, doesn't mean that we give up having a lot of goodness come back to us. It just means we don't need it. It just means we don't base what we give on what we get back. We break apart that equivalency and we just give to give. A beautiful and talented photographer just offered to take pictures of me because he wanted to, because it was his offering. He doesn't want anything back for it. I was like, are you sure? Yes, I'm positive. Thank you for your work. And then it's up to me to accept that with an equally open heart and gratitude. So here's a question for you, for all of us. To live a life of service, you can do that no matter what your calling is. You can do it if you're selling airline tickets. You can do it in any occupation. Because a life of service just means that you want people to get as much as they can out of what you're giving. I stayed at a hotel the other night, a small little motel on the beach, and I was late, and there was a woman working at the desk, and I couldn't figure out how to get any food because all the restaurants were just closing, and she was calling everybody and trying to get us a place. Or finally she said, I got it. And she called real fast and she found a pizza place still open, and it was her friend, and she got it so that they made a special one for us. And then she threw in a bottle of wine, and then she came chasing us out to our cars. We were running for it, and said, oh, here's 2 real glasses. You can't drink that wine out of a paper cup in your room. She just did it for the joy of making us smile, or the joy of fulfilling her own heart with her own generosity. I will probably never forget that encounter. She was adorable, and, of course, made the whole day for us. So the question to ask yourself is not, do I want to live a life of service? Because we are meant to. The question is, what are you in service to? For most of us still, we are more in service to our fears. We're oriented around fixing problems that exist. We become in service to fixing things. There's always got to be something wrong that needs fixing. And as soon as that's fixed, then I'll be free to have a bigger expression of my heart. A lot of us are in service to our egos. And this is where the real problem is. Because when our natural tendency towards generosity and sharing becomes transactional, is filled with expectations of what we'd like to get back, those expectations are spun out of the ego. Those are ego needs. And what happens? A lot of people are becoming facilitators now. A lot of people that have been on a spiritual path or a life path of conscious growth are now becoming facilitators and leaders in their own right, doing their own circles, doing their own work. And that's all good. But when there's an ego need to have exchange for what we put out, the problem with that is the ego is never satisfied. It keeps wanting more. Okay, well, I had 6 people in this circle, but, I think I should have 12. I'm not growing. I need to market myself some more. I should, maybe I have to become more famous. I feel this desire to be popular and all this work I'm putting into it. I should be rich by now. I should be making lots of money. How come I'm not? And then the transactional nature of our service grows into a big old ego dream. And more often than not, we lose our way. We become consumed by the drive towards more and more and more acknowledgement, more and more and more out there. And we completely lose sight of our original intent. Which is to share our hearts. So take a look at your life. Allow the great awakening. Allow it. Thank you for the hearts and waves. Allow yourself, know yourself to be part of it, to be a conscious part of the awakening. This is happening, and it will require us to let go of our need to be fed, to have ownership. To be more powerful than others, to be exalted or worshipped, or to be the one. I would hope that many of you listening to me will also get to experience sitting here in whatever form it will be for you, and being a vessel for spiritual intelligence to come through and be completely tuned in to what is trying to happen here on planet Earth. All right, my loves, happy Wednesday. I'll see you next week.